Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, and welcome to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brendan Labarre, and the Winnipeg Jets have lost to the Anaheim Ducks in overtime by a score of 4-3. The Jets get a loser point. Whoop-de-doo. But before we get into the show, we're going to start by breaking down the game, the events, the things that transpired. Let's talk about shifting into hyperdrive and getting ready to have some fun with your news source of all the biggest stories in hockey. Bringing a unique style of broadcasting and commentary with a Quebecois flavor. Hyperdrive Hockey combines top-tier hockey analysis, big stories, pop culture, and a damn fun atmosphere that will drive debate, make you think, and more. Join Max, Daphne, and Kevin every Tuesday and Wednesday for your fill on the hockey world. Watch on YouTube on the Game Over Network channel or subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. And speaking of subscribing, while you're here, while you are joining us here on the Game Over Winnipeg channel, please just, drop a quick like, maybe even subscribe if you really are enjoying yourself, because just really free and easy way to help the channel. As well, look at this lovely box up here. You can be a part of the show. It's not just my show, it's your show. So please drop in your comments. You'll be up on the screen. If you're on a phone, you may not be able to read yourself, but it's a give and take relationship here. Anyway, the Winnipeg Hockey Jets. I really hope you weren't late to watching the game. I really hope you didn't tune in about 90 seconds after the game started. My hat's on crooked. Because the Winnipeg Jets came out just with a mission. They come out there. Vilardi just wins a battle straight on the boards, passes to Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor makes a super patient, super intelligent play, just goes past John Gibson. He falls on his butt, drops it back for Mark Scheifele, and makes no mistake. And the Winnipeg Jets start this game with a 1-0 lead super early. And from there on, the Winnipeg Jets really didn't take their foot off the gas. They were in full control of this one from the get-go. They just looked like they were the better team, which it really felt like they were. And after that last game against Anaheim Ducks, it really left a sour taste in my mouth, because you look at how that team kind of not bullied you, but they were just the much better team. The Winnipeg Jets were very sloppy. If you look at some of the analytics, let's in fact make this a little bigger. Can I even do that right now? No, but that's okay. If you look at that, you don't even need to look too closely. Look at all the orange names. Those ones are very up at the high. This is from Money Puck, and this is just expected goals. Expected goals are basically, let's start with Corsi. Corsi is, if I take a shot you're on the other team, you take a shot my net, we're both at 50% Corsi. Expected goals is just taking those and weighing them more heavily based on where you take the shot from. So if I take a shot from the point and you take a shot from the slot, you'll have a higher expected goals because you took a shot from a more dangerous position. And they just use that, apply it to people, put it into a percentage, and basically higher is better and lower is worse. And this was the Winnipeg Jets after the game in this earlier in December. On December 18th, I believe, was the date. And it was just a nice change of pace for the Winnipeg Jets to come out flying, and really show who the big dog in this game was. And then from there on, one player on the Winnipeg Jets who didn't look too great was Ville Heinola. Ville Heinola really could kind of use some of Stanley's 6'7"-ness, some of that raw genetics there, because he was kind of getting tossed around a little bit. Unfortunately, Jacob Trouba absolutely rocked him. And then there was a shift against the Ducks' fourth line where Heinola was not having fun. He was up against Ross Johnston, the former New York Islander. And that's just a guy who he is paid because he is big. He can throw you around, and that's just what he was kind of doing to Ville Heinola. And for those people who aren't a big fan of Ville Heinola because of his size, this was one there. This was a play where that kind of got backed up because Ville Heinola couldn't even box out his man just because he didn't have the girth to kind of get Ross Johnston out of the way. And then you know what? We don't usually talk about Connor Hellebuck's saves here on Game Over because it's just kind of like something that happens all the time. We've just kind of come to expect that this wonderful goalie, this man, this myth, this legend, Connor Hellebuyck, will just always make the save. And there was a really nice save on Mason McTavish where Mason McTavish was all alone. Hellebuyck just challenges him, gives him really nothing to shoot at. Mason McTavish tries to go 5-hole, and he just stops it. It was very excellent. And then there came another Winnipeg Jets goal, and this one just showed off just the hockey intelligence of Josh Morrissey. Josh Morrissey's in his own end, shoots it off the half wall, off the boards. It banks up, hits Alex Iafallo in stride. He just curls in on the left side of the ice, waits for, I can't say this defenseman's name. It's like Mitch Midyov or something like that for the Anaheim Ducks, one of their first rounders, one of their very good defensive prospects, young guy. And he puts his stick down. Iafallo just gets a nice sauce under it. Beautiful. Goes right to Adam Lowry. And I've never seen Adam Lowry take a shot where he looks like Kyle Connor as much as this one. He rips a shot, goes across. So he's on the right side of the ice there. Goes back up to the top left. Beautiful shot. Could not have placed it better. And the Winnipeg Jets are up 2-0. And kind of going from what we went, and then later in the period, there was a play that kind of tingled the memory. One thing we've been talking about earlier this week, way back in 2024, was the Winnipeg Jets seem to be playing a much more collapsed defensive system in the last few days. Their forwards are playing a lot lower. That might be because they're just trying something new. They're seeing something that we don't really think of too much. And then that also might be too because they've lost Fleury, they've lost Dylan Samberg, so they might be trying to compensate for that lack of those defensemen by having their forwards come out and be more a part of the just in front of the net front battles. Go Local Sports Team says Hellebuyck is my guy. Yes, I think he is all of our guys. He is just a wonderful person to have around. And then speaking of net front battles, there's just Brett Leeson. There was a point where I was just like, oh, look at that. There, it's paying off where he just kind of blind throws it in front, but there's 3 Jets there. No way it was going to get across the crease. But one thing that didn't really happen was on the next goal, I believe it was Gudas. Gudas shot the puck, kind of shot it just at Leo Carlson's stick. Leo Carlson got the nice step, and you can see on the slow motion the moment that Dylan DeMello knows he misses his own assignment, and he just kind of the fear in his eyes. He's like, oh no, that was my guy. I should have got him. And Dylan DeMello should have had Leo Carlson on that play. But, Dylan DeMello usually does. He's one of the better defensemen on the team. And then later on, there's a really weird play where the Winnipeg Jets thought they were getting called for too many men. And I don't know how many times the refs come together and decide to do the right thing. And I think one thing that really bothers me is I like how they are able to do it and stop and make sure they get the call right. But at the same time, it's it seems like there's only really specific things in the NHL where they're like, you know what, we absolutely have to get this right. And there's, in terms of what is challengeable and what is not, it's just kind of weird in how not everything is challengeable. It's super niche. And they seem to just add more stuff. It's shouldn't just most things be challengeable? And that's, I don't know, just kind of a side rant. Nemestikov dropped to the third line winger was interesting. Do you think he is hurt? Oh, Nemestikov is definitely hurt. He hasn't been taking faceoffs. There was a I think that was very notable. I've been kind of looking at that. The last few games, you've seen Perfetti on that second line take a lot of faceoffs. And then on the power play, when Perfetti was taking the faceoffs, I'm like, oh, they're just getting him more practice taking faceoffs. And then Perfetti gets kicked out. And when Perfetti got kicked out, Nino Niederreiter stepped in, and you're like, oh, Nemestikov is just, something's bothering him. He definitely looks a step behind himself, and you really kind of worry. And hopefully the guy's just okay, and it's something he can deal with. It reminded me, this is a second period segment, but we might as well do this now. It reminds me of the Mark Scheifele injury, where it's okay, we can tell you're hurt, buddy. But then one day Mark Scheifele was just fine. It might seem like it's something very similar to that, where it's something he can play through. It's not going to get worse, and it will just kind of seemingly almost fix itself. Hopefully it's just the kind of same thing that Mark Scheifele is going through, and it will kind of fix on its own. And then with kind of going back into the game here, the goal to tie it up was a 1 on Troy Terry. the one where the top line, they're at a fight at the point. Gabriel Velarde loses the fight, loses the battle, comes up to Ryan Strome, and Ryan Strome has it. He doesn't even have to go across ice for his pass. Troy Terry just kind of bolts to open space, kind of on the half boards, and there's a one-timer that goes from Strome to Troy Terry, and it just beats Hellebuck. And at that one, on that goal, I was like, that's probably one that Hellebuck would really like to have back. And I think it started this trend of, for the rest of the game, it's like, okay, this is not when Hellebuck's on his top of game. I thought he kind of played a weaker game than we're kind of like really used to, as opposed to him just standing on his head like he usually does. And then then there was a power play. Strome took a penalty on Scheifele, and then he took another one, and I was wondering if that might lead to something, like if there's some frustration there. There might be a little bit of chippiness between those two former World Junior teammates, and nothing really came of it. So, And then the third period for the Winnipeg Jets, it was a pretty boring third period. It's pretty low event. There were some nice chances both ways, but really until you get into about 7-ish minutes left when the Jets kind of took control again, there wasn't really too much happening. And but when we get to the last few minutes, Iafallo scores a goal. He had a wonderful game, and there was this moment for the third period. Fife brought up that Nemeskov's dropped to the third line winger. It was interesting how they flipped the two centers. So Lowry was playing with Perfetti and Ehlers. How do you forget Ehlers? He's playing with Perfetti and Ehlers, and then you had Nemestikov playing with Nemestikov basically playing wing. He couldn't take a face off, and with Nino Niederreiter and Alex Iafallo, and it kind of had a really different look. I really like how Scott Arniel is taking the time in January to kind of figure out his lineups, because last season we had Sean Monahan. The trade happened on January 23rd. So I'm wondering if Chevy's kind of looking for things, and he's like, okay, let's kind of mix some stuff up right now to see if we can like make something budge, if we can see what we can fix by just shifting things around, what options we have, as opposed to seeing, well, okay, we really, really need this thing. With the news that Pettersson might be available, what would you give up to get him on the Jets? Oh my gosh. I think you definitely have to trade Cole Perfetti in that package. I think that they would want like a player in Cole Perfetti's ilk that would be better. I would definitely be okay with that though. But I think the biggest thing though for getting Elias Pettersson, I believe he makes 11.6. They need to give up some salary that way, and I just don't know who on the Jets could offset that type of salary, that salary switch. Because if you want to bring in $11.6 million, you really need to like send out a lot. I forget how much cap space the Jets have right now. I don't think it's too much, but like, is that when the only way is Pionk? Yeah, but like if you trade Pionk, like then you have to go get another defenseman, right? Like, and Pionk might not be the answer, but then it's just you're I guess you're fixing a long-term problem there, but you're just creating so many new ones. And Pionk's a pending UFA. Like we wouldn't have that much value in a trade where they're trading like your franchise player. Jesse says, "Damn, tough L." Yeah, that was pretty tough, but wasn't as bad as the one earlier in the season. So the Iafallo goal. Just Nino Niederreiter. They had the cycle. They did this thing in this game where they were able to just hold the puck. They were just doing that. They're holding the puck, and then Nino Niederreiter was just able to just fling the puck at the net, ends up behind. Iafallo just kind of picks it up, scoops it, does the wraparound, a beautiful goal. And then we have a few moments later. Now we're on a 6-on-5. 6-on-5. And the weirdest thing, okay, Radko Gudas scores the goal on the 6-on-5 with Jacob Trouba screening in front of the goalie, which it was just a weird kind of accumulation of players doing these things. And it just made me think, it's just like, why were those guys out? Especially when Anaheim has some like really nice young defensive pieces, especially like who are pretty good at offense. And it was just weird. But they tied up the game with that shot. In overtime, Ehlers, beautiful breakaway. If you've been following Winnipeg Jets for any amount of time, you know he's not the best at shootouts or penalty or breakaways. If he had it his way, he probably would have taken a slap shot if he could have. Perfetti then at the end of the game made a nice move. I really liked that from him. I really like how he's kind of gaining some confidence there. And then the net comes off. It was really weird how they didn't whistle it, but Troy Terry scores another goal where it's one where Hellebuyck would like back. And I think that there's no one more upset with Hellebuyck than Connor Hellebuyck in these moments. Vancouver wants to win now. Yeah, but like I still don't think that a pending UFA in that sort of deal, like it might kind of work out there. Like it's like you think of the let's say like the Evander Kane trade, right? You're trading Evander Kane and Zach Bogosian, and you're trading them to Buffalo. But those were like two long-term pieces, and then coming back, like you had Drew Stafford as part of the trade, which is kind of the comparable I'm making here. But they also had to send the Brendan Lemieux, Joel Armia, and Tyler Myers, who was kind of counteracted in the Zach Bogosian part of the deal. But it just feels like if you're gonna send a UFA one way, but it's not the biggest part of the deal. The Jets and Team Canada lost, so I ordered Wendy's to make me slightly less sad. I really hope you enjoy that Wendy's. Did you get a Baconator, Jesse? I know that's usually your go-to. Oh, wait, is it? No, you're not a Baconator guy. What am I talking about? Baconators give me heartburn. And I just choose not to eat them. But the Wendy's, probably one of the better fast food places out there. Anyways, let's go to the second period. And while we do it, let's talk about how you can support Game Over Winnipeg. Jesse and Fife, I know you guys are already subscribed, but for those of you watching the show, maybe you're watching it after, maybe you're listening to the podcast version, a really easy way to help and support the show, free and easy, just like, comment, subscribe, join our Discord if you want to. We're in there chatting it up throughout the games, especially if you are fans of the other teams. Those are a little bit more active. It's like just me and Ty here in the Game Over Winnipeg sphere. And then we also have a Patreon. If you have a little bit to give, anything is really kind of helpful. And yeah, just let us know. Like, comment away too if you want, like, what you want to see out of our Patreon. If you'd like to see, wonder what we could do. We could do like Chell streams. We could do some fun stuff. There'd be fun things going on there. And with that, let's go to the second period. The second period is kind of where we talk about more longer term kind of themes throughout the Winnipeg Jets games. The Winnipeg Jets seasons. And the first thing I want to talk about, actually, thank you for bringing it up, Fife, is Vladimir Nemestikov and his very apparent, no good, very bad injury. And it just seems like he's kind of lost a step he didn't have to lose. His hands seem to not be as slick, and he just seems a step behind. And it just makes you think, like, are you better off with this player taking him off of this team? Like, not off of this team, but just like put him on the shelf. Maybe we see a Brad Lambert kind of guy come up, like Brad Lambert kind of come in for a bit, just because. Are we better off resting this guy just so that, like, do we need Vladimir Nemestikov to beat the Anaheim Ducks on a random day in January? Like, is that really the best use of him? Or are we better off putting him on the shelf and trying to take a more long-term approach? Okay, like, what is going to maximize our Stanley Cup odds? And I think having Vladimir Nemestikov at 100% is more important than beating the Ducks tonight. Unless it's like an injury with like Mark Scheifele where he was just able to play through it and eventually be better. I think it might be worth it to take him and just throw him on the shelf. And even if that comes at the parrot, it doesn't need to be Brad Lambert, but I just think they were throwing up like the Moose leading scorers on the screen during the Jets game tonight. And I think the most brutal part about that is like Chibrikov is like leading the team. He's played like 30 games or so, and he has 13 points. Like, that Moose team is awful. And what is Brad Lambert and what is Chibrikov? What are they doing on the Moose? They're probably stuck in their own end most of the time because it just seems like the team doesn't have the guns to kind of move. And I think when it comes to developing a player, in the AHL, and these guys all seem to be on different lines. Like whenever I look at the lineup, it seems like Lambert's on one line, Chibrakov's on another line, and it just seems like they just don't have the veteran talent around them in the AHL. And I think it's important when you're developing guys. Like if I'm a playmaker, we need someone who can like score the goal when I give them the puck. If I'm a goal scorer, I need to be able to play my game and just get lost and someone finds me, so that those good habits are being reinforced. So if I have, again, if I'm a goal scorer, when I am looking on trying to figure out how to score goals, it doesn't help me if no one can make that pass to me, because the biggest reinforcement in my head on if I'm doing a good job or not is if I'm getting those looks, if I'm getting those chances. And I just think if we don't have those veteran talents, I wouldn't mind if they actually traded for some. Like I think that's something you could do, but just getting those guys to come in so that you as a offensive player are getting those looks, are getting those just opportunities to kind of work on your game in ways that are meaningful. And I one thing I also don't want is if we have Brad Lambert coming off, we don't want to yo-yo this guy either. I remember just thinking about like, okay, what one of the better ways to just develop players. It's not to just, oh, you're up on the NHL teams for 2 or 3 games and you're back down. So if it's just a short-term thing with the Nemestikov, hopefully they can just kind of keep Lambert down there if that's the plan. But if there's a plan to like bring Lambert up, if it's a long-term thing, if we can give him a really long look, maybe Chibrikov comes back up and we shift someone to center. Maybe we give Cole Perfetti extended look at center, just to kind of see what this team has and what we can do with it, just before we kind of like go into the trade deadline season and we actually know what we need. Another thing I want to talk about today with I think evidently guy scored a goal and assist today. Alex Iafallo played a really good game today. What an absolute trooper. He's like the new Matthew Perreault, where he's a guy where you're like, oh, it's just, we have this guy who shouldn't be on the fourth line, too good for it, but it's just super nice. It's an absolute luxury that we have this player. His whole season, he's been on the fourth line. There hasn't been a lot of injuries up until the Ehlers injury for him to kind of get advancements. But it's been nice how Scott Arniel's been able to find him some ice time with the second power play unit. He's one of the first guys over the boards when the Jets take a penalty, which is really good. Kind of gives him some purpose when he's out there. And just a guy who every game, he doesn't really take games off in terms of like quality, right? He's very consistent, and maybe that's because he doesn't play as much. I think he averages about 11-12 minutes a game, which is pretty good for a fourth liner, but just super consistent, really nice. And it's nice to see. I was texting my buddy Josh during the game, and it's one thing we talked about on the show is with the third line with Appleton, it seemed like they were kind of getting too comfortable in terms of like they were trying to make more plays that wouldn't end up leading to shots. So they were doing more things like trying to make the extra pass. When that line is at its best, they're being super direct. They're getting pucks at the net, and they're just kind of picking up the garbage. And that is what we saw a lot more tonight. And then with Alex Iafallo, that beautiful saucer pass. Like, what else do you want to say? It was pretty amazing. And then Adam Lowry scored his 10th goal of the season tonight. Adam Lowry had, in 40 games, 10 goals, 12 assists, on pace for about 45-ish points. It'd be super awesome if he got there. He's never scored more than 40 points in a season, and he's only scored like 30 points in a season a couple times. Basically, when Bones got here, he started getting kind of more offensive leeway without even being on the power play, like when his dad was the coach. But just Adam Lowry this season just finding another gear, and I think a lot of that has to do with who he's out there with. Him and Nino Niederreiter, just what a pair they've been so far this season. And then with Alex Iafallo on there, just another guy, another bona fide a great middle six player for Adam Lowry to play with. And it's been super nice to see that on top of the way he plays, just setting the tone every night. Super nice to have Adam Lowry here and being just a productive player. Like, they're not second line numbers, like, because it is the Jets' second line, his line, but just finding ways to get more out of him. And they've been trying to pair him up with Ehlers for the last little bit. Like, last game they had Ehlers flip with, I believe, with Iafallo to reunite the Perfetti, Nemestikov, and Iafallo line. And then Nino was playing with Lowry and Ehlers. And today they had Lowry, Perfetti, and Ehlers together. And also in overtime, they started with Lowry and Ehlers too. So just finding ways to maybe get more offense out of Lowry, and in a way too that gets Ehlers some more ice time, because if that second line, which is the Lowry line, if you get Ehlers on there, maybe that's not a long-term solution, because I don't think when we talk about playing direct, I don't think Ehlers is the most direct player. He definitely likes to be more creative, which is what makes him a special player. But I think just the identity of that third line, like, and sneaking ways to get these guys more ice time has been super nice by Scott Arniel. And just it's nice if Lowry gets 40 points, that'd be pretty sweet. Okay, and with that, let's move on to the third period. And before we get on there, let's talk about Game on Winnipeg, because Game Over has you covered after the game. But in order to get ready to watch the Jets, you've got to get your Game On too. Game On Winnipeg is a short form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Winnipeg Jets. Debuting soon, hosted by Harrison Lee. Get all your Jets news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday on the Game Over Winnipeg YouTube channel and in podcast form. Really easy to find. It's on Amazon. It's on, you know where to find podcasts. I don't need to tell you guys. All your favorite ones. Rate it 5 stars while you're there. And let's get to the third period. With the third period, I just want to talk about some stuff about the Ducks. One thing I really like about the way their team's built right now is they're not that good. They have a lot of young guys, but they also have a lot of SOBs on that team. You got Trouba, you got Gudis, you got Ross Johnston. Just a lot of guys where, like, when the Winnipeg Jets roll into Anaheim or when they come through town, it's not a great night. Like, you're getting bullied by these guys, and it's one thing to be bad, but it's one thing to be bad without an identity. And it's not a great team, the Ducks. But you got to at least respect it. They're out there, they're causing stuff. And it's nice because, like, that's when Winnipeg, there's such a duality with the Anaheim Ducks, because I think we all kind of like them a little bit because of the Timu thing. But then the 2015 playoff series with Corey Perry and Rickard Rakell lit them up. And it was just a really, really other side of the coin, the duality of the Winnipeg Jets and the Anaheim Ducks relationships. Almost said the Mighty Ducks. What else? Trouba's on that team. He looks washed. On the first penalty kill for the Anaheim Ducks, he had like 2 clears where he just couldn't get it out. He looks like he's lost a step, and his puck movement doesn't seem to be as good as it used to. But it's just one game, and it's on the Ducks, so whatever. But one thing we haven't really gotten to talk about is just his departure from the New York Rangers. And he leaves Winnipeg because he kind of plays out his RFA years here. He's tried to get out a few times, but what really he wanted to get away from was just the country, because his girlfriend can't practice being a doctor here. She needs to be in the US. And so he goes to New York. We get Pionk, and then the 20th overall pick, which was originally ours, traded it for Kevin Hayes, got it back in the Trouba trade, and eventually selected Ville Heinola in 2019. And just Pionk, he's had his highs, had his lows, but he's definitely made an impact as a Winnipeg Jet. Well, whatever that impact is to you, you can decide. But I just think it's really interesting how the New York Rangers got out of that contract, just with the way they kind of navigated the no movement clause. And they did that twice. They did that with him, and they did that with Barclay Goodrow earlier in the summer, where they're just like, yeah, it's fine if you don't want to be traded, but we're just going to throw you on waivers, and then you'll kind of see what happens. And it's just kind of interesting how, since the Vegas Golden Knights have kind of started this trend of just, we will do anything to win, we don't care who you are, just how teams kind of take a little bit of inspiration. And I think when the Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup, kind of everything was put on the table in terms of like treating your players however you see fit in order to win. And I was glad to hear that the Winnipeg Jets were kind of in on it. I think that would have been a fun reunion. When I think of Jacob Trouba, I think of him scoring the goal against Nashville. He either tied the game in that 7-3 win in Game 3, or he scored the go-ahead goal. And what a lovely memory. I remember when he was traded. I threw on the highlights of that game. Just a player you love to have on your team. Just a real SOB. And he had the puck moving skills to kind of back it up. Winnipeg Jets did a great thing with him when they just threw him in the top power play and said, okay, you are going to get some points here. You got a 50-point season that year, pretty seemingly from just power play one time, and just really kind of gave him the level to earn that $8 million contract that he got, which good for him. He was a good Winnipeg Jet when he was here. And it just kind of sucks how it kind of ended for him in New York. That whole kind of first half of the season, it really, like, according to like things I've read, what he said, just seems like he just like felt like a ghost of himself in New York this season. And then the last thing with the Ducks, let's round out this podcast just talking about the trade deadline. We've had some trade deadline talk, and for the next few games, the Winnipeg Jets are playing some real bottom feeder teams. They played the Ducks today, who are a bottom 10 team. They are playing the Detroit Red Wings on Saturday, and then they're playing the Nashville Predators on, I think it's Tuesday. So what I thought we could kind of look at some players, look at their cap friendly page, kind of see who is their cap friendly. What is it now? It's I forgot what the site is. I just always Google cap friendly. It's the first thing that comes up. So just you look at their way they're structured, and with the players that you can kind of see, like the pending UFAs. Maybe I'll just go over here with like the pending UFAs. Kind of on the team, some guys who kind of made impression today. You think of a guy like Frank Vatrano right away. I don't know if that's the type of player they'd be looking for, like a scoring winger. They really tried that last year, but it definitely would give them with Tyler Toffoli. But I think Frank Vatrano, a better skater. I think that the skating was the biggest problem. And Cole Perfetti is playing better this year, so I don't know if they're going to be looking at it that way. But he's a guy, he has a great shot. Just a guy who just rips the puck. And I think that would really help with injuries. If any injuries happen down the line, you don't want to get kind of caught. But they might see a Frank Vatrano and be like, okay, how much different is he from Chibrikov? And what is the difference in is putting him in the lineup over Chibrikov really that worth it? That's a question for you to say. He had a really good season last year, and he doesn't make too much money. I believe it's, what is it? 3.65, which is a pretty good cap hit. That's going to be halved, so it's going to be like 1.8, and that still gives you enough flexibility to make other moves. In terms of forward, another forward for the Ducks, a guy who I kind of like today is all over the ice. Robbie Fabry. He was a guy drafted pretty highly in 2015. Broke his legs at the World Juniors. The World Juniors are just on my mind today as Canada lost. Spoilers. And with Robbie Fabry, he looks like a really speedy player, really nice depth guy. And I think that's a player that they might want to look at. Guy who has a scoring touch as well. Also, I had some Robbie Fabry Pro sticks and Pro Stock sticks when I like 5 years ago. I think they just broke. And if they played against sports here in Winnipeg, they do sell old Jets player sticks. I would definitely buy more of Robbie Fabry sticks if he returned to Winnipeg selfishly. So just a guy, a nice speedy depth player, who can kind of play up that lineup in a pinch. And I think $4 million pretty steep for that guy. But again, it's probably gonna be halved because it's just kind of what you do at the trade deadline is take on half the salary when you're trading someone away. And those are the really only two of the guys that I would be interested on this Ducks team. Trevor Zegras is always in trade rumors, but I don't think that's something the Jets would really go after. They usually mainly go after rentals, and I don't think that Trevor Zegras is as high of an impact player as he was kind of hyped up to be. And he just seems like it's weird how the points never kind of show up for him. Again, he's on the Ducks, but just a really interesting thing to follow. And then on the defense side of things, the only really guy you can kind of see is Brian Dumoulin. Brian Dumoulin, the guy who's he's not the player he once was, but a nice depth defenseman. If they were looking for someone on the left side, you can probably play a bottom pairing role. Makes what is that, 3.15, which would be a decent ad, just kind of round out the defense. If they want to kind of make a pair of him and Miller, or him and Coughlin, I think would be pretty decent. And just a guy who won 2 Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh, spent some time in Seattle, and just not what he once was, but just in his day was a really good defensive defenseman. And kind of like in the Dylan DeMello. He was Chris Letang's Dylan DeMello when he was in his prime. And with that, we are about to go into the fourth period. And while we go into the fourth period, that is the period where you can ask me anything you want. It can be about hockey, it can be about non-hockey things. It can be, I don't know, ask me whatever you want. But so type those questions away. They're in the chat. They'll show up right here on the screen for everyone to see. And with that, I'll just gonna read the ad read. Then we'll go into your questions. If you have no questions, then we'll wrap up the show. And what is a better way to support, this is my favorite ad read. What is a better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? The Game Over Winnipeg Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our stylish design, or if you want to wear your love of goalies proudly with our Live and Die by the Goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get you through the winter, I love the mugs. They're fantastic. We have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on the stream now to take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. And we'll keep the QR code on the screen there. See if we have any questions. I might waste some time. But talking about something else, John Gibson played really good today. As a guy who's always in kind of trade rumors and stuff. Looked pretty impressive. I don't know if he saw the Jets' best game. It seems like the Jets are at a point this season where you don't expect them to win every game. On this road trip, they are starting. They have 8. Hopefully they can get kind of like 5 wins, go like 5-2-1. That'd be really nice. And I think I don't know, they definitely didn't get up to play this one. They tried, they played really well, but I just don't think they were as in it as they were against Colorado on New Year's Eve. And I think Detroit, we might see the same thing. Like Detroit, the last time they played Detroit, the top line just absolutely ripped them apart, and they were coming off a pretty brutal loss in that moment. It was like one of those things where it felt like the top line's back together again the last time, and then they just absolutely just ripped Detroit a new one. It was fantastic. So we'll see. All right, and it seems like we have no questions. The next Jets game, it's me again. We won't see Ty for a little bit. I think he's on a trip, or he's curling. I forget which one it is this time. But the Jets play the Red Wings on Saturday at 6 p.m. The game was originally at 2. It got moved up to 6 p.m. So just, and if that's the first time you're hearing this and you're like, oh, now I can watch it. And now you can watch Game Over Winnipeg too. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the channel. The like button's just down there. Super easy way to support the channel. Really helps us out. Really helps us in the algorithm. Boosts us up. And just a free and easy way to support us here at Game Over Winnipeg. And with that, I will see you guys on Saturday. So have a good night, Winnipeg. If I can find the button. There we go. See you guys.